I feel like I need to redo yesterday's intro because it was very manic and I forgot that I use a directional mic on my camera, and I spent half that clip standing behind the camera showing you showing you what I wanted to rearrange in my room and like my shelves and things like that. And yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense. I doubt you could hear anything, and the lighting was atrocious. So here's me immediately coming home from work to film a clip, which is groundbreaking, I know. I did not read a lick of anything last night. I watched 5.5 episodes of The Bear, season 2. I started a crochet project out of scrap yarn from that box that I showed you, so progress is being made in the yarn department. But I did not read. But today, I read 67% of Voyage of the Damned, which is a hell of a lot of Voyage of the Damned. And part of me wants to gobble it up right now. The other part of me wants to save this last 33% for tomorrow. I have a lot of driving to do for work tomorrow, and so it'd be nice to kind of finish this out because I think it'll be just enough car time to knock it out. I feel like I also did a shit job of telling what this book was about yesterday, so I actually pulled up the synopsis on Goodreads. I'm not going to read it word for word, but let me give you a better explanation on why I was so excited to read this. So Concordia is this country or continent. I'm not really sure. They don't really describe exactly what it is, but it is broken up into, I believe, 12 different provinces, and there's a representative from each province. And then the one from Dragon Province is like the reign supreme over everybody. So we have Ganymedes Pyceros, who we're following. He goes by the nickname D. He is from Fish Province, which is the lowliest province around in Concordia. And he is the class clown, slacker, all-around disappointment to his family, to the people in the province, but in the who are on this voyage with the other blessed, because there's one blessed from each province, which is how we get all these people on this ship. And he's supposed to be the heir to his province, but each heir is supposed to be blessed with a gift, and he does not have one because his father had a lot of illegitimate children, and surely one of them has to have the gift because he doesn't have it. So they're on this ship. I believe this is supposed to be a once-a-year thing, or maybe it's a once-a-generation thing. I'm not 100% sure, but the Emperor sends the 12 blessed on the trip, his own heir or her own heir, and then the heirs from the other provinces get together on this boat, and it's supposed to breed some harmony and fellowship and all that shit before they each reign over their provinces. First night, someone dies. Second night, someone dies. People are just dropping like flies. And there's no one on this ship. Because the ship is controlled, or maybe not even controlled is the right word, but it's imbued with the magic of the reigning emperor. And he puts these like 12 little like sprite things on the ship as well. And they are basically servants to the 12 people on there. I'm sorry if my camera's shaking. My dog is moving the thing. But they're basically on this ship alone, so only person who could be a murderer is one of the 12 blessed, which is a very scary thing for them to know. And one of them is really creepy. The one from the Spider Province is giving me major ick. I don't know what it is about them, but I don't like it. I don't like it. Also, this is a little bit of a gay love story. I feel like I got a little bait and switched in the beginning, but I'm into what's happening right now, and I don't want to spoil it, but people are falling in love. People were betrothed. They're not really betrothed anymore. Shit is happening. Lots of things are happening. There's this cute little found family that's kind of happened between Ganymedes, who is from the Fish Province, Wyatt, who's from the Bear Province, and there's a girl who, I don't know if we've learned her real name, but he calls her Grasshopper, and she's from the Grasshopper Province. She's the youngest blessed among them. She's 6 years old and is absolutely precious. And they've become kind of like a found family situation as they're trying to figure out what's going on, who's behind these murders, why are people behaving the way that they're behaving. And so it's a little bit of Agatha Christie, and then there were none. You know, we're getting picked off one by one, but then you have the fantastical setup of this province or of the provinces and of this greater kingdom of Concordia. And it's just really interesting. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Hunger Games with the way that their province is set up. Not in like the actual action of the Hunger Games, like this doesn't really match in this way. I mean, it does in that each province is supposed to give whatever it is they produce to the capital, and then the capital seemingly does nothing to support them. So that part's very similar. But in this, there is a group of people called the Crabs, which I thought at first they were actual crabs. I didn't know they were human, because each province is named after, like I said, there's Bear, not Pisces, Fish, dragon. There are all these different things, and some of them have power, and so it's like, are we talking about humans here or not? But they are humans. But the crabs tried, I guess, to mutiny, and so they like essentially ended up getting District 13, except they don't disappear. People know they exist, and there's like a whole wall situation. Lots of metaphor to present day America, if you ask me. The vibes are immaculate. The vibes are great. The energy, lit. I'm here for it. The comedic breaks from Ganymedes, perfect. Absolutely perfect. His energy is phenomenal. Imagine if you were locked on a ship in a very serious situation and you had like the comedic stylings of one of the drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race, where you're just like, can you take anything seriously? But also, I'm really glad you're here to make me laugh a little bit. It's quite helpful. I have a feeling that Ganymedes might end up having a blessing in the end, or like a gift. I don't know. Something about the way that he just moves through these people makes me think, like, you've got something. It may not be something that you or anyone in your province has previously recognized, but I think you've got something. So the vibes are great. My journey into fantasy couldn't have started any better. I absolutely love this book. My physical copy from Barnes & Noble is supposed to be here at some point in the next couple days, and I can't wait to show it to you. It is gorgeous. I'm so excited to get it. And now that I know that this book is likely going to be a 5-star experience for me, I can't wait for it to live on my shelves. So that's all I've got so far. I'm going to go make some dinner and probably watch the rest of season 2 of The Bear. I think that's what we're going to do tonight. If I decide to read some more, I will update you at the 75% mark, but I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to try and save it for tomorrow just to give the workday an uplift, because in Texas right now, we are in 100-degree weather every day with no end in sight. It's had honestly been a pretty mild summer up until August, but August is showing out in the worst way. And so having to be in the car driving all over Dallas tomorrow with the sun beating down on me, even though I have wonderful AC, I just know it's going to be exhausting, and I'm going to need this to like uplift me. So look what came in the mail today. Yay! And perfect timing too. I finished this while I was sitting in the Target pickup, and wow, what a great book. 5 out of 5 stars. I had the best time. I can't recommend this enough. Who do I think this is for? Anybody who wishes they were deeply into fantasy but is often intimidated, I think this is a great book for you. If you like the Hunger Games but want it to be more Agatha Christie mystery and not YA, this is for you. If you enjoy an adorable 6-year-old companion that at times is a little scary but often feels like the little girl from Despicable Me who says, "It's so fluffy, I'm gonna die!" I don't know, if you just like to have a good time, if you enjoy a great audiobook, I highly recommend the audio on this. I actually listened with my Spotify premium account for this. Perfect usage of that. I need to use that more. That was great. And I varied between like a 1.3 and a 1.8 speed. I was at 1.3 in the beginning while I was trying to listen because people from the different provinces have different accents. And some of them, like Wyatt from the Bear province, sounded like he was an American with a country accent, but then I almost called her Tadpole. That's not who, she's Grasshopper, the cute little 6-year-old companion, sounded Irish almost. It was interesting the way that they chose to differentiate the accents based on the provinces and the perceived strengths or weaknesses of them. I actually kind of liked that. It felt like it built out those characters more, even if it used stereotypes a little bit. I loved that the cast of characters were each just so different, but at the end of the day, they were alike in the way we all are as humans and the things we're concerned about. I really appreciated the mix of fantastical elements while still coming back to humanity. If you're a person who struggles to understand, you know, if you're struggle with world building in fantasies, I think this would be good, especially because it's pretty contained. And while we hear about the different provinces, we spend so much time on the ship that tends to be the world that you default to when you're listening. And I think it makes it really easy to take in the other elements of the provinces. So I would say this is a really good beginner fantasy book, especially because it is so mystery heavy. It's a great time. There's a little smooching in here, but there's not like heavy smut. I wouldn't go as far as calling this a romantasy, but there's definitely underlying romantic elements to this, but it's not the main subplot of the book. So yeah, I had a great time. 5 out of 5 stars. I think I'm going to take a little reading break before I decide what I'm actually going to read next. I have a baked potato in the oven right now, and I'm going to put some little grilled chicken on it, maybe some broccoli. I'm going to watch some more seasons of The Bear. I say seasons, more episodes of The Bear. And yeah, I don't know what I'm going to read next. I think I want to stay in this fantasy lane. I have some options, none of which that I have physically, actually, now that I think about it. They're on my Kindle. But I have Half a Soul, which I've heard really good things about. I have, is it One Dark Window? The Rachel Gillig duology. I have those from Kindle Unlimited. I have Trust of the Emerald Sea, which I do have physically behind me, but I also have it on my Kindle as well, so that way I can do that in either way. I think I'm going to stick in the fantasy lane for a little bit because that just sounds fun. But I do have that baseball arc, that baseball romance. And that book comes out soon-ish. But I feel like it's after Labor Day, which is not this weekend, but the next weekend it comes out. Like, I think it comes out the Tuesday after or that Thursday. So I have some time. I think I can fit in one more fantasy book before I need to read that one. So I don't know, we'll see. But I just had the best time with this. And I know I didn't give you a ton of detail as we were reading, but this book literally just came out this past Tuesday, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. But if you have read and loved it, or if you have questions, hit my DMs. All my social links are down in the description. I would love to chat about this with you. Hi, happy Saturday. I didn't read anything yesterday, but I did finally start something today. I have started The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This book is incredibly popular and with some criticisms, which I think rightfully so, based off of T.J. Klune's own admissions of using residential schools from Canada as some inspiration for this book, which I don't know how I feel about that yet, because so far I get the vibe of that without the trauma and negativity so far. But let me back up. So we are following Linus Baker. He is a government worker for a agency called Dichotomy. I think it's Dichotomy. And basically their job is to do welfare checks on children, but these are magical children. And he just got this special assignment to go to this island to investigate this orphanage that's there. There's only 6 children at this island, including the Antichrist. And then there's Mr. Parnassus, who is the head of the orphanage there. And Dichotomy doesn't like how he's doing things and not reporting things to them. And so far, this feels a little bit like, I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to say. Linus is going to have to reckon with his beliefs of what is right based on the agency he works for and the rules that he has to follow. He talks about this tome that he carries around with all the rules in it. It's like 400 pages long, cost him $200, and he has 2 copies. I don't know why you would do that, but I think he's going to have to learn the difference between that and what it means to actually show up for these children and to make sure that they are safe and loved and cared for and all those things. So yeah, I've been listening to the audio, playing a little Stardew Valley, hanging out, having a good time. So far, I'm liking the vibe. We're meeting all of the different kids on the island right now, and I don't really have a ton of feelings. I can feel the whimsy starting though. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to keep reading some fantasy. I had a great time with Voyage of the Damned earlier this week. And I just needed something that would keep the vibe going, but maybe be a little bit more chilled than the murder mystery that was going on there. And so far, this is hitting the spot for me. So I will keep reading, and I will be back with an update for you later this evening. I'm about to start chapter 11, and I get the hype. I'm sold. I get it. This is so good. I'm loving the whimsy. I love how brutally honest these kids are. They're just so sweet. And at times I forget I'm reading a fantasy novel, because if you've ever been around children who are under the age of 12, honestly even older, but specifically younger ones, there's something about their limited time on Earth that just makes them just so brutally, scathingly honest, but also pure and deep, and they just bring a lot of awe to a situation, and that's what's happening in this book. I'm having the best time. I absolutely love Arthur, their caretaker, who's like their pseudo father basically, because even though in this story they're supposed to be in these orphanages, they're magical children. They're never going to be adopted, and it's just a thing that's like not really said out loud, but like everyone knows. And in the beginning, Linus kind of scolds Arthur for thinking that the children are his, but as we get to know them more and get to watch him encourage them to be curious and to grow and to think of themselves more than what the world has taught them that they are, those are his babies. They just are. And I love watching Linus shed the stringent rules and walls of his job to allow them in and to truly get to know them and to understand the family that they've cultivated on this island. It's great. I love it. The writing is so easy to get into. It's not so much lyrical, but it definitely has its own harmony and its own rhythm, and it's one that is very easy to figure out and to dive into. I am listening to the audio in tandem with the ebook, and that's helping differentiate some of the kids a little more. And I'm actually really enjoying the voices that were chosen for that. So I think I might continue that just because it's just fun to listen to. But I'm having a great time. I'm loving this book. I have highlighted several passages that made me understand how TJ Klune saw, I just forgot the name of them. I can't think of it. The name of the like schools that Canada put Indigenous children in not very long ago that were not schools really. I mean, there was some teaching going on, but let's be very real. These were awful residential schools. That's what they were called. They essentially stripped children. If you don't know what residential schools are, give it a Google. It's really hard to read, but I think it's very important because we often like to think that only certain countries have a problem with putting people into camps, and it's pretty much everywhere. We all do it, and it's terrible. And not say I love is the wrong word. I am very glad that the conversation around them has been very prevalent these last few years, especially, and that they're finally getting the acknowledgement that they deserve, because honestly, before like 5 years ago, I had no idea what a residential school was. I see in certain ways how that inspired this book, but I don't think it was negative. I think it's just the way he talked about it in the interview that gave people pause and kind of criticism around this, because I did see some Indigenous creators who said that it did not bother them that was used in the book. And I'm always going to look towards people who are directly affected and or oppressed by the thing, like for their opinions, when I'm considering whether or not to read something. I already owned this book, and I just knew that at some point I would read it. It was more whether or not I was going to share that I was reading it publicly. But after looking at some videos and things of people who said, like, is there criticism to be had? Sure. But is that at the detriment of other people learning something they never would have learned before? And I think that sometimes we are very quick to shut down an author or a story or a situation because the first initial feeling is discomfort, but we don't often look at why we're uncomfortable and whether or not that discomfort warrants shutting down the thing. I think a lot of us are very conflict avoidant for great reasons, but we don't often do the work to look at why we feel that way and to try to figure out if that conflict avoidance is warranted in new situations. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know everything there is to know about residential schools and whether TJ Klune was in the right or the wrong for using them as some inspiration for this, but with the way that the system that Daikomi is built off of is described, I don't think he's doing them a disservice, But you can also tell, like, it's a fantasy book and it's meant to be whimsical and it's meant to be fun and all those things. And so there's a lot of levity in this where you're obviously not going to get that if you're watching a documentary about them. So, yeah, I don't know how else to say this. I guess I'm saying read this or don't. I think it's a great book, and I think if you are interested in reading the stories of people who are othered, this is a great parable, if you will, or, parable is the right word, of that, right? Because this isn't based on a true story or anything. This is a fantasy book, but he loosely based it off of that, and honestly, I don't think that's wrong based on the way that, I shouldn't say I don't think that's wrong. I don't think he's doing it a disservice based on what I'm reading so far. I am only about 50% of the way in. It could go very left in the second half, but I don't think it is, because several people have DM'd me saying that this is their favorite book, like, ever, and they're people who I know are critical readers. Yeah, I'm having a good time. I am. I'm ready for the gay shit to pop off. I can tell that Linus and Arthur are gonna have a little romantical time. I also realized I have Under the Whispering Door on my Kindle as well, which I think is the sequel to this. I say it's the sequel. I could be wrong, but I think I'm going to keep reading some more TJ Klune. I'm enjoying this. I just spent the last hour working on this delightful crochet project. It's very colorful and very fitting for House in the Cerulean Sea. I listened to the end of the audiobook. The easiest 5 stars I've ever given. Wow. The whimsy in that book, the found family, the personality of the different kids, watching Linus not grow a backbone and speak his mind. And Arthur's a beautiful man. I love that man. I learned that Under the Whispering Door has nothing to do with House in the Cerulean Sea. At least it's not like a sequel for that. And the sequel comes out in like 3 weeks. It's called Somewhere Beyond the Sea. I'm very excited. And I think we're following the same characters. Or maybe we're going back to when Arthur was a child. Oh, no, we're continuing on. It starts when Arthur's summoned to talk about his past, and we learn about what happened in the cellar, and I'm excited for that. I didn't think I was going to care that much after I finished this, because recently I have found that reading super hyped books, like, they've just fallen really flat for me, but this one deserves all the hype it's received. I had the best time reading it. I'm excited to continue. I don't know what else to say about it. It was perfect. The only thing I wish is that it was a little bit shorter. It's about 400 pages, and around 325, I was like, this doesn't feel like it's wrapping up, but then it did. And so it's a little long, but it's great. It was a great world to be in. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, I didn't mind the length so much. It's more so that I want to get this vlog out today. And I was like, I need to finish this book and update y'all if I'm going to get the vlog out today. And so that was the only reason I was a little concerned about the length. But man, so good. I'm so glad I decided to keep on the fantasy theme, and I think the next book I read will be fantasy too, but you'll have to stay tuned for another video for that. So thanks for hanging out with me. I know this vlog might have been a little boring. I feel like I didn't really leave my living room for it this time, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it all the same, and I will see you guys in another video soon.